command your mind or be ruled by it. There comes a moment in every life, silent, invisible turning point, where the battle is no longer out there in the world, but within the chambers of your own mind. No crowd will witness it. No applause will follow it. And yet, that moment will determine everything. Because the truth most people spend their entire lives avoiding is this: you are not held back by your circumstances. You are held back by the thoughts you have chosen to obey. Every empire begins twice, first in the mind, then in reality. And if your mind is undisciplined, if it is scattered, reactive, weak, then no matter how much opportunity surrounds you, you will remain a prisoner inside invisible walls. Look around. Most people are not living, they are reacting. Reacting to fear. Reacting to doubt. Reacting to the opinions of others. They wake up and immediately surrender control to their phone, to the noise, to the pressure, to the endless stream of distraction. And by the time the day ends, they wonder why they feel empty, why nothing has changed, why they are stuck. But they never stop to ask the real question: who is in control of my mind? Because the person who controls the mind controls the direction of a life. If your thoughts are not your own, your future will never be either. Understand this with absolute clarity. Your mind is not just a tool, it is the command center of your destiny. Every decision, every action, every result begins as a thought. And if those thoughts are weak, inconsistent, or borrowed from the fears of others, then your life will reflect that weakness with brutal honesty. This is why so many people drift. They don't decide what to think, they allow the world to decide for them, and the world is not interested in your greatness. The world will feed you doubt before it feeds you belief. It will show you limitation before it shows you possibility. It will train you to seek comfort instead of growth, approval instead of purpose, safety instead of power. So if you do not take command of your mind, something else will, and it will not ask for your permission. It will quietly shape your beliefs, shrink your vision, and keep you operating far below your true potential. That is the tragedy of an undisciplined mind. It does not destroy you overnight. It erodes you slowly, thought by thought, day by day, until one day you wake up and realize you have lived someone else's version of your life. But here is the turning point, the moment where everything can change. The moment you realize that your thoughts are not facts, they are choices. And if they are choices, then they can be changed. This is where power begins. Not in the external world, not in money, not in status, but in the ability to look at your own mind, take control of it, because once you do, everything shifts. The same world that once looked full of obstacles begins to reveal opportunity. The same challenges that once broke you begin to build you. The same fear that once paralyzed you becomes fuel. But none of that happens until you decide fully, completely, without hesitation, that you will no longer be ruled by your mind. You will command it. You will train it. You will direct it with intention, precision, and relentless discipline, because the mind, left alone, does not drift toward greatness. It drifts toward comfort. It drifts toward fear. It drifts toward the path of least resistance. And that path leads nowhere worth going. Greatness requires resistance. It requires focus. It requires the ability to hold a vision in your mind so clearly, so powerfully, that no distraction can pull you away from it. Think of the great builders of the world, those who turned ideas into empires, dreams into reality. They were not the most talented. They were not the most lucky. They were the most certain. Certain in their belief. Certain in their direction. Certain in their refusal to let doubt take root in their mind. While others hesitated, they acted. While others feared, they believed. While others waited for permission, they created their own path. And it all began with one thing. They mastered their mind. Because when your mind is aligned, when your thoughts are disciplined, focused, and directed toward a clear purpose, you become unstoppable. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger. You stop reacting. You start creating. You stop doubting. You start deciding. And in that shift, your entire reality begins to transform. But understand this: mastery of the mind is not a one-time decision. It is a daily battle, a moment-by-moment choice. Every thought you allow is either building your future or weakening it. There is no neutral. When you entertain doubt, you strengthen it. When you dwell on fear, you feed it. When you replay failure in your mind, you reinforce it. And over time, those thoughts become beliefs. And those beliefs become actions. And those actions become your life. So, if you want to change your life, you do not start with your environment. You start with your thoughts. You become ruthless about what you allow into your mind. You question every limiting belief. You reject every excuse. You replace every doubt with intention. Because the mind is like fertile ground. Whatever you plant will grow. If you plant fear, you will harvest hesitation. If you plant belief, you will harvest action. If you plant vision, you will harvest results. But the ground does not decide what grows. You do. And that is where responsibility begins. Not the kind of responsibility that feels heavy, but the kind that feels powerful. Because it means your future is not random. It is not controlled by luck. It is not dictated by circumstances. It is shaped by the thoughts you choose to cultivate every single day. And that realization should ignite something inside you. Because it means, no matter where you are right now, you are not stuck. You are simply one disciplined mind away from a completely different life. But discipline is where most people fall apart. They want the result without the process. They want confidence without control. They want success without mastery. But it does not work that way. You cannot build a powerful life on a weak mental foundation. You cannot create clarity with a scattered mind. You cannot achieve greatness while entertaining mediocrity in your thoughts. So the work begins within, in silence, in focus, in the decisions you make when no one is watching. It begins the moment you catch a negative thought and refuse to let it take root. It begins when you feel fear and choose to act anyway. It begins when you replace "I can't" with "I will find a way." Because every time you do that, you are strengthening control. You are building authority over your own mind. And slowly, steadily, you begin to shift from being ruled to ruling, from reacting to directing, from drifting to deciding. And that shift changes everything. Because once you realize that your thoughts are tools, not masters, you begin to use them differently. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What if I succeed?" You stop focusing on what you lack and start building with what you have. You stop waiting for the perfect moment and start creating momentum in imperfect conditions. Because you understand something most people never do. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. And action is only possible when the mind is aligned, when doubt is silenced, when focus is sharpened, when purpose is clear. So you train your mind to focus not on what is easy, but on what is necessary. Not on what feels comfortable, but on what leads to growth. Not on what others think, but on what you know you must do. And as you do this, something powerful begins to happen. Your identity starts to change. You no longer see yourself as someone who hopes. You see yourself as someone who decides. And there is a difference. Hope is passive. Decision is active. Hope waits. Decision moves. Hope wishes. Decision builds. And the moment you become someone who decides, your life begins to accelerate. Because now, your mind is no longer a battlefield. It is a weapon, a tool, a force directed toward a clear and powerful vision. And that vision becomes your anchor, your guide, your reason to keep going when things get difficult. Because they will. There will be moments when doubt returns. Moments when fear whispers. Moments when the old patterns try to pull you back. But this time, you are ready. This time, you recognize the voice. And instead of obeying it, you challenge it. You question it. You override it. Because you understand something deeper now. Your mind will always test your commitment before it rewards it. And only those who persist, who remain disciplined in their thinking, who refuse to surrender control, will rise above it. So you keep going. You keep training. You keep choosing thoughts that align with your purpose. And with every step, you build something unshakable. Not just success, not just results, but self-mastery. And once you have that, nothing can take it from you. Because you are no longer dependent on circumstances. You are no longer controlled by fear. You are no longer waiting for permission. You are operating from a place of power, from clarity, from certainty. And that is where true freedom begins. Not when the world changes, but when you do. Not when conditions improve, but when your thinking evolves. Not when fear disappears, but when you decide it no longer has control over you. Because, in the end, there are only two paths: to command your mind, or be ruled by it. And that choice is being made every single day, in every thought you allow, in every belief you accept, in every action you take. So decide. Decide who is in control. Decide what you will think. Decide what you will become. And once you decide, do not look back.